Hey guys, welcome back to Chris and Harry Unplugged, episode 19. We are two Gen Z liberals who scream about politics every week. We're going to hop right into it. This week, we had big elections, and you know what we had? We had a big blue wave. We had a huge blue wave, despite all the polling. Despite, once again, you go back to, 2022, even 2020. 2022, they keep predicting this red wave, and ever since Trump came along, it's lost. It's lost. So we're going to talk about the elections this week. I hope everyone had a great week. Let's hop right into it. What state are we starting with first, Sisson?
Well, look, you're right. We had a blue wave. I think the state we're going to start with is Virginia. Virginia, if I'm right. All right. So can you see this? Can you see it on the screen?
Yep.
All right. So for our audio listeners, we have the results up on the screen, but for the visual people on YouTube, obviously you can see what we have in front of us. And we're going to obviously describe everything. But look, in Virginia, we had some great results, some good numbers here. As you can see, in the Virginia State Senate, 21 Democrats are in, 19 Republicans are in. Needed to control the Senate is 21. So, of course, Democrats retain control of the Senate. They had control before. But here's the big one. The Virginia House of Delegates. The Democrats won 51 seats as it stands right now. The Republicans have 45, but they've won 49 seats. CNN's just yet to call them for some reason, and needed to control the chambers 51. So now the Democrats control both the Senate and the House in the state of Virginia. The House previously was controlled by Republicans, and of course there's a Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin. And before the elections on, Tuesday, Youngkin was like, if you elect us Republicans, we're going to sign an abortion ban. We're going to take money away from education. We're going to ban more books and things like that, right? And, that was the big thing that Republicans across the state were campaigning on. So the people of Virginia looked at that. They're like, no, we don't want that. We're not going to do it. And, well, they spoke at the polls, as you can see.
Yeah, exactly. And like what most people were hearing on the news about this was it was pretty centered around abortion. Abortion rights were quite literally on the ballot. Youngkin and Republicans said if we gain control of the state legislature, the House and the Senate, we will pass an abortion ban. And Glenn Youngkin was bringing in getting lots of donations outside of Virginia, just essentially trying to bully his way to win this race via money. And the people of Virginia spoke, and this is the first instance of this night where Republicans, as we get closer to 2024, continue to run on losing issues. And if you're a Republican right now, you have a problem, a really big problem, whether they want to admit it or not. Their policy positions are unpopular, and the people of Virginia spoke. And even going through this night, you saw, fringe Republicans in Virginia and in other states we'll talk about say that, I don't know, Harry, if you saw that, there's that it was rigged or there was problems at the voting box, etc. It's like the idea here is that, Republicans get slapped in the face with a loss, and they're just elected Republicans are incredibly out of touch about it. It's like you lose, well, no, it was rigged. You lose, well, no, and we'll see in another state. Maybe we'll change the rules to make sure that we didn't lose. So yeah, that's just fascinating. Let's go to the next. We'll go through a couple of these and then chat about it.
Yeah, for sure. Also, the last thing on Virginia, I just think it's funny how before this election, there were people talking about, Glenn Youngkin, the governor, jumping into the presidential race and saving the Republican Party from Trump. And, Glenn Youngkin was displayed as like this electoral juggernaut who can win in blue states. And, well, we know what happened. Anyway, the next state we're talking about is the deep red state of Kentucky. Chris, what happened in Kentucky on Tuesday night, my man? Tell me.
Another blue wave. Essentially reelected the Democrat governor of Kentucky, as you see here up on the screen for our audio listeners, 52.5% of the votes to 47.4% of the votes. So about 67,000 votes. The Democratic candidate won by. Again, another big deal. We're seeing like these deep red states. And even we'll touch on Mississippi as well, which Democrats lost, but same concept. We're seeing deep red states make statements here. And the reason this is important as well, that, maybe it would be a good thing to dive into as we get closer to 2024, as these numbers continue to come out, a lot of these counties to the for our audio listeners, I'm essentially pointing right now to the south east side of Kentucky. Some of those districts were heavily Trump districts. I know there's one in particular that was quite literally won by Trump by 40 plus points, or it was maybe closer to 30 plus points, and flipped in this governor's race to a Democrat. So we're seeing some key. These are important to look at, because although they may seem small going into 2024, like we're talking about, groups of people making big statements and flipping votes toward Democrats, which is just it was just wild to see.
Yeah, and you're right. There are plenty of districts here in Kentucky on the map of which were Trump districts, and they flipped. But, just a word on Daniel Cameron, the Republican candidate. He was full-blown MAGA. He was endorsed by Trump. Trump was pushing on Truth Social. Like 3 days before the election, Trump was like, Daniel Cameron is surging. He's not a McConnell guy. Like, he is a MAGA Republican. He's not in line with Mitch, obviously senator from Kentucky. And then when Cameron lost, Donald Trump went on Truth Social and was like, he couldn't get rid of the stench of Mitch McConnell. It's like, all that garbage. Basically, what he's saying is like, it's not my fault that he lost. It's everybody else's fault, because he, in Trump's mind, he can do no wrong. But this is problematic for the Republicans, because as we'll talk about in a minute, with it, just comparing it to Mississippi, another red state, like the Democrat here won by a larger margin than the Republican in Mississippi. Like, if you're the Republicans and you're looking at that and you're seeing all these issues that Andy Bashir ran on, which is like reproductive freedoms, infrastructure, just kind of like state issues that matter to the state, not like whether Donald Trump goes to jail or not, which is what Daniel Cameron was doing, you win elections. And I think Democrats are more focused on the issues. You're seeing in election results, and these MAGA Republicans are too wrapped up in, the DOJ, the FBI, they're so mean to me and they're so mean to my cult leader, Donald Trump. And look what happens. They lose by over 5 points in the state of Kentucky. So
Right, exactly. I think that's well said. And like I was also going to point out, as people are asking us, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts, as we're looking through this, like you're talking about, people continue to ask me, like, they say, Chris, Biden's poll numbers don't look great for 2024. Like, even close family and friends say, how I don't understand how you win in 2024, something more national. And I say, the key here is that Democrats have to focus on issues. This was the race to see, if Democrats are the ones who focus on actual issues, and I know that sounds funny, but it's true. You focus on issues that Democrats win on: abortion, climate change, LGBTQ plus rights, democracy, etc., gun control, etc. Those are issues that Americans care about. And when Democrats run on that, they win, as opposed to, Republicans simply just running on, they don't run on issues. They may run on, they either run on something very deeply unpopular, like abortion, or you see in a state like Kentucky, they run on Trump. And I don't know when, and again, I'd also be curious to hear your thoughts, Harry. I don't know when this party gives this up. Like, they're so in denial about Trump candidates. I would love to make a list of like every election that like Trump has endorsed a candidate. I've seen some of the stats before. Ever since to his 2020 loss, they get crushed. People are tired of this, and it's like every time that, the Republicans beg for Trump to endorse them, but so many of these Trump endorsed Republicans just get killed because they're Trump endorsed, because they're not running on anything else besides my MAGA king leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you said it like perfectly. It's like, the difference here, and I think people are really, really seeing it now, is that the Democrats are actually focused on real issues. The Republicans are, again, focused on Trump. They love Trump. All they talk about is Trump. Trump, 2024, he's our guy. And that's what they run on. They run on their love for Trump. And in some Republican states, it works, because voters only care about who likes Trump and who doesn't. But in these more competitive states, they lose, because people are like, we don't really care if you like Donald Trump. Well, in some cases they do. We're like, they're like, what do you think about the issues? Like, are you pro-life? Are you pro-gun? Like, where do you stand on these things? They just want to know if you will put food on their table at night, and what your policies are for that and things like that. They don't want to hear about how you think the DOJ is corrupt for holding Donald Trump accountable. And I think we saw that in Kentucky. And it's just, and I saw today that the chairwoman of the RNC, Ronna McDaniel, is like, the Republicans and our position on abortion is right. Like, the American people are with us. And I'm like, how many elections do we have to beat you in before you realize that you're wrong? And we don't actually like that. No American, no woman wants their rights taken away from them. I just don't get it, man.
Right, exactly. And even like before this, I pulled up some of the other quotes, and I'll wait. But like the quotes from Republicans, like Ronna McDaniel, obviously like the RNC chair, and like other Republicans, just in full blown denial about either abortion or Trump. That like, no, this is not a losing issue. It's very, very much a losing issue.
Yeah. No, I mean, look at the state in front of us, Kentucky, Mitch McConnell's state, that awful human being. And, the Democratic governor just won by over 5 points in that state. So that's telling. But yeah, that's Kentucky. Any last word on that? Anything else?
No.
Okay.
I think we should continue on. And, again, like toward the end, we can open up a more broad discussion, I think.
Yeah, and obviously there were like down ballot races in Kentucky where Democrats lost, but that's not super unexpected because, down ballot races where people are less informed about candidates are more likely to go to their picked party. But still, even here, 42% for the attorney general for Democrat in Kentucky, pretty good. All right, here's Ohio. Big elections here. Big issues on the ballot here. There was issue 1 and issue 2. Issue 1 was a constitutional right to an abortion. Issue 2 was legalizing recreational use of marijuana. Now, when you're hearing these issues, you're probably thinking about, what issues align with which parties. And of course, with abortion, Democrats are pro-choice. We want women to have the right to make their decision that's best for their bodies, their family, and keep that decision between them and their doctors. We don't want Republican politicians getting in the middle of that. And with marijuana, Democrats, a majority of us, support legalizing recreational use of marijuana. It's kind of like if you want to do it, you can thing. It's good for the economy as well. Aside from that, but on both these issues, yes was voted on. So abortion is now a constitutional right in Ohio, and marijuana has now been legalized for recreational use. And it wasn't close. With abortion, it was 56.6% voted for yes, which is 2,186,962 votes. 43.4%. Only 43% voted for no, which was around 1.6, close to 1.7 million votes. And with marijuana, 57% voted for yes, 43% voted for no. So good results here for Democrats. Good results just for the people of Ohio here, because obviously these issues matter and they affect a lot of people. But I don't know. What do you make of them, Chris?
Yeah. No, I agree. A few things here. First of all, look at Cincinnati down there. That's where my whole entire family line comes from. Not me. But everyone comes from Cincinnati, Houday. So, Cincinnati doing the right thing here. But regardless, I think it was, again, a big statement. Like, clearly a resounding yes for the constitutional right to an abortion and a resounding yes on the legalization of marijuana. Again, issues, we're talking same thing here. We can keep pounding the drum. I think the key to remember here in Ohio is, again, Republicans just can't accept that they lost. We saw a statement from the Ohio Republicans saying that they are essentially going to ignore this ruling on issue 1, the constitutional right to an abortion, and essentially saying that we don't care. We don't care. I think the reasoning was something along the lines of, that the actual prop itself, which is what people voted on, the prop issue 1, was too broad or was purposely misleading. So the people of Ohio didn't understand what they were voting on, and so therefore, they're going to attempt. They claim that they are going to attempt to go through some legislative process to strip this or not make it happen, because they do control the chambers in Ohio, which I posted about on TikTok. But I think it's important to remember here that that's probably not actually going to happen. My understanding is that they really have no authority to do that. But regardless, it's a play to make you, if you're listening in Ohio, or like I'm in Georgia, Mississippi, some of these more contested states, like Georgia's, for me, is going to be might decide the election, very contested state. Like, these are attempts by Republicans to make sure that you don't show up to the ballot box. Like, Republicans are going to throw stuff like this in your face and say, like, oh, well, we're just going to ignore it, blah, blah, blah. Like, in the hopes that essentially, like, in all these practices, like, we're not going to follow what the people want. We're going to take away, here in Georgia, we've seen Brian Kemp. We're going to take away voting drop boxes. We're going to make it harder to vote. All they're trying to do is stop you from showing up to the ballot box, because again, that has to be the play for Republicans. If they're going to double down on this issue, as you can see from the numbers, they're going to lose. And so don't listen to all. I didn't even bother to pull up the quote from Republicans, because honestly, I don't think it matters. But I still think that it's a resounding thing for Americans to listen to, that we're talking about the party of, the party that claims to be the party of patriotism. You see an American flag, you think Republican. It's the party of patriotism. It's the party of law and order, but it's not. Everything about it, as it stands right now, is anti-American to its core, period. The people of Ohio, by 500,000 votes, say we want abortion to be enshrined in the state constitution, and Ohio Republicans spit in the face of Ohio voters and say, no, we don't want to do that. That's anti-American to its core. It's not patriotic. It's not democratic. It's none of that. So I think that's an important thing to remember going toward 2024, that even, as I said on my TikTok, Harry, and I'd be curious what you think about this, we're talking about razor-thin margins in 2024, hypothetically, as it stands right now. Even if you're not a Democrat like us, I don't see how someone in good conscience can vote for the Republican Party as it stands right now. Like, even if you're, I talked to someone about this in person the other day, even if you are a conservative to its core, you don't agree with Democrats at all, this party is rotten to its core. It's anti-American. In good conscience, you just can't vote for this. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And look, this is something that I think you, by the way, perfectly said, but this is something I say a lot to Trump supporters and just like independents, kind of moderate Republicans. I'm like, look, I think that if you disagree with Biden on the policy, which most people don't, he's passed like common sense policy, but if you do disagree with Biden on the policy, that's fine. But as an American, it is the right thing to do to vote for Joe Biden. You could agree with Donald Trump on every single policy. It still doesn't make any sense to vote for him. He's anti-democratic. He's in line with this MAGA wing who wants to overturn elections they lose or the results they don't like. And that is antithetical to the ideas that America was built on, which is democracy, people get the right to choose, and the will of the people is respected and represented at your state level, on the federal level, at the presidential, whatever it is, right? And, it's really, really, really concerning how this is not just a trend of, Donald Trump talking garbage anymore. It's like they're actually trying to do it in these state legislators. It's no more like, oh, we think the election was rigged in 2020. It's like, no, let's actually try to make it happen. We want to ignore the will of the voters. And as you said, over 500,000 votes, yes, won. Over 500,000 votes, yes, won. And, Republicans are saying, screw that. We don't care. They're giving the middle finger to the people of Ohio. And by doing this, they're giving the middle finger to the people of the United States. And it's just crazy. But look, let's dive into this article because I have it pulled up here about, these Republicans trying to overturn the election results in.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, you pulled it up. I appreciate that.
Yeah. In a press release by the Ohio Republican Committee, GOP members rant that, quote, foreign billionaires impacted the election results and called the results tainted by so-called, quote, foreign interference. And it's still unclear what they're referring to. And so here's a statement here. There are a couple of different quotes in here that I find to be very disgusting and concerning. For example, Republican Representative Bill Dean said, the amendment's language is dangerously vague and unconstrained and can be weaponized to attack parental rights or defend rapists, pedophiles, and human traffickers. What the hell is that guy talking about?
Well,
what?
Yeah, dude, I don't know if you've seen, the idea here now for Republicans is, they're almost this is crazy. I wouldn't expect this. But I think the idea behind this release is that Republicans are going to try to literally, not only double down on abortion, but triple down. They're literally, I don't remember who was on Fox, say, we're not the ones with a radical stance on abortion. Democrats are. And I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene who tweeted out, the key here now is to triple down. We're going to start calling it how we see it, and that is Democrats are the ones with, they're not calling it, pro-life anymore. They're just straight up saying, they're radical. They're trying to protect rapists. They're trying to protect child predators. Like, that's what they're going with now. The triple down. And like, what does like, the Republican Party, oh my God, what is foreign billionaires? What does that mean? Like, what do they, so there's no other context to that?
Dude, you know who they're referencing, bro. You know who they're referencing. They're saying like George Soros or something, man.
Yep.
They're saying Soros and like all these billionaires in Europe or something like influenced it.
Influenced abortion rights in Ohio.
Yes, that's right. They think that. Okay. And they think, what else did they say? They said billionaires and foreign interference. Foreign billionaires and foreign interference.
But I just want to point out to everyone, as the article says, that's like the thing that's often overlooked when Republicans say stuff like this. There's no follow-up to that. They just they get on a press release, they're like, foreign interference. And that's it. There's no proof. There's no explanation of what the fuck that even means. I mean, dude, what a joke. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. No, like genuinely, I want to know what they're talking about. Like they haven't provided it. They're just like, yeah, in these statements they're like, yeah, we think like foreign billionaires interfere with the election, and we're like, all right, so like who? And they're like, oh, well, we can't comment on it right now. Okay.
We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that. We'll circle back. Then Melanie Miller, also this quote I talked about on my TikTok, super concerning. Republican says, quote, "We will continue to be a voice for every child in their mother's womb who can't speak for themselves." Weird. And then Representative Beth Lear said, quote, Republican, "No amendment can overturn the God-given rights with which we were born."
Excuse me. Beth, watch. Just like watch. I'm looking right in the camera. Beth, watch. Watch this. Watch us in 2024 take a supermajority, and our constitutional amendment that Democrats will pass nationally to save abortion rights will overturn the God-given right. Just watch for me. Just watch for me, Beth. Just fuck. Oh my God.
Anyway, like they're so strange. Like this God, they're now doing this God-given right stuff to try to justify their extremism. They're bringing in religion to be like, yeah, well, religion tells me I should overturn the election. And it's like, no, you can believe whatever religion you want, worship whoever you want. We love that. We respect that. But that doesn't give you the right to overturn an election. And this woman saying we'll continue to be a voice for every child and their mother. Again, they're trying to appeal to people's emotion, and they're trying to use this like weird, vague language to justify their MAGA extremism. And it's fucking insane, man. Like real talk. It's just like it doesn't make. And look at the bottom here. This is the plan to prevent mischief. I don't know why I sent it like that. To prevent mischief by. Mischief,
I think.
Mischief. All right.
Mischief.
To prevent mischief by pro-abortion courts with issue 1, Ohio legislators will consider removing jurisdiction from the judiciary over this ambiguous ballot initiative. The Ohio legislator alone will consider what, if any, modifications to make to existing laws based on public hearing and input from legal experts on both sides. And that's, as I said, a fancy way of saying, yeah, we don't care about the election results, we're overturning it.
Right, and I think there's one more point to make here. As I said earlier, my understanding is that it's a bunch of hoopla, right? So the people in Ohio will get their constitutional right, because it is a constitutional right. But the other thing I want to take home here is, like, even if you're in Ohio, or again, if you're listening and you're in, I'm in Georgia, some of these more contested states, especially for abortion rights, this type of language from the Republicans, again, going toward 2024, is not just a spit in my opinion. It's not just a spit in the face to people who voted yes on issue 1. In my opinion, as a voter, let's say you don't agree with abortion and you vote no, the Republican Party is literally saying to the citizens and the voters of Ohio, like, yeah, you're too stupid to like understand what that meant. So you like let's just like they're literally saying it in the press release. They're like, yeah, it was vague and like it was clearly like purposely misleading. AK like the people of Ohio, who over 500,000 of them overwhelmingly voted yes, like they're calling you dumb. And they're calling everybody in Ohio dumb, essentially. They're like, yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about. So I just think, like, again, there's a way here for Democrats, there should be, going toward 2024, that a lot of Republicans should be voting for Joe Biden. Truly.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think you're right on the nose. And look, you don't see national Republicans calling this out, right? Like this is not like people say, well, it's just how high are Republicans. It's like, no. The Republican Party is complicit. They are sitting on the sidelines watching a rogue legislator and rogue Republicans trying to undo the will of the people, and they're not saying anything. They're not doing anything to preserve democracy. They're not doing the right thing, saying, we'll remove funding from you guys if you continue on this. This is not what America stands for. This is not what America is. And I think you made a good point, Chris. They're saying, like, you are too stupid to know what's best for you. You're too stupid to make your own decisions. We, the legislators, will make the decision for you. And that's that's the entire Republican philosophy with the abortions. It's like they want, instead of it being a decision between your doctor, your family, and your faith and what's best for you, they want a Republican politician standing at the door saying, you can't do that. I said you couldn't. It's like, come on, man.
Right, exactly. And this has been, we can go all the way back to Roe v. Wade. This has been precedent for 50 plus years. And the idea that the party of, less government control, wants the government to be involved in a decision between, a mother or a woman and, her health is disgusting. So,
yeah. And I think that the...
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, go.
I was just going to say that I think, like, going into 2024, we all have to remember kind of these elections and what's at stake with reproductive rights. It's not just something that is, sort of important. It like maybe affects you, maybe it doesn't. It's like, look, we've heard horrific, awful stories of little girls getting assaulted in these Republican states and them not getting the care they need, forcing them to carry their assaulter's baby to term. We've heard terrible stories of women having to travel out of state, spending thousands of dollars, having to take off of school if they're in college or in high school, spending thousands of dollars just to get basic reproductive care. And just generally, women have less rights today than they did 2 years ago. And that's not okay. That is insane. That is archaic, and it makes no sense. And I don't think, and the majority, I know for a fact, the majority of the American people don't agree. And the Republicans are saying, we don't care. We don't care about your opinion on this. It doesn't matter to us. We're going to go ahead with what we think is right, as opposed to, considering the reality of the matter. So it's just something to keep in mind in 2024 as we get closer, because Supreme Court picks, reproductive rights are all on the ballot, folks. So.
Yeah, I think that's super well said. I think that's incredibly well said. And again, like, I really hope, and I'd be curious your thoughts about just like making sure, the messaging here. I always think about, the messaging here from Democrats is like, there's a lot going on with the Republican Party, but you need to focus on the things that matter. And one of those things is abortion. Yeah.
And like, as we said earlier, when Democrats run on issues, we win.
Yeah,
Republicans won't.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's frustrating to me in a way. I don't know how you feel, but it's almost like, in a way, for Democrats, part of it, like at least part of it, has to be almost not falling into the trap. Like you and I, are very passionate about how dangerous, Donald Trump is and the things he's saying on stage. But it almost seems like, in certain ways, if Democrats just focus on just that's noise. Right. And I think it's crazy to say that a presidential candidate saying the most horrendous things on a stage or getting in legal trouble is noise. But, hypothetically for the American public, it's noise. And so when you just focus on, look, this is the issue, this is how we're going to address the issue, maybe it just works. Maybe it's better than just constantly trying to say this guy, Trump, is bad news and he's, in court for fraud. Maybe it's just better for Democrats to, again, I point out, and I don't know how you feel about this, maybe you can add issues, but 4 key issues here for 2024 that just hammer, right? Just hammer and ignore the noise. It's abortion, it's climate change, it's gun control, LGBTQ plus rights, and then maybe you could throw in 5, democracy. That's probably like one of my most passionate issues, democracy, but maybe that falls flat on American voters. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. I'm curious how Democrats and like the DNC and like the Biden campaign is going to approach this in 2024. Like, what what is the new approach with Trump? Because in 2016, we had no idea what to expect. He was just saying the most heinous shit. 2020, he was just off his rocker. He was dead in the water. He was doing an awful job with COVID, and that was the main issue at the time. What is the game plan now? Do we focus on his insanity? Do we focus on his policy? Do we focus on how disastrous his presidency is? Do we focus on how the guy is facing 700 years in prison? Or is it a mixture of all? And what's the distribution? 50% policy, 25 to other things? I don't know.
That's why it feels that's a great point. That's exactly why I feel oftentimes that like the polling it's still really early, but I think there's like a hint of that. What?
Dude, so sorry to as we're filming this, Senator Tim Scott just dropped out of the race.
Really?
Yeah, he just suspended his campaign. Yeah, Republican Senator Tim Scott just dropped.
Okay,
sorry, continue.
Good riddance, Tim Scott. But why? I thought he was pulling. Well, I guess not really. I mean, Nikki Haley's like surging, and Vivek's doing fine. Yeah, he doesn't. Okay, well, yeah. Bye, Tim Scott.
Anyway.
Anyways,
continue. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I think like to your point, like that's often what I see in the polling. Like it's still very early, so I just think a little hint of it is like, and this is Trump's entire game plan. For the record, it has been since 2016. But like, it's just a whirlwind of shit. There's so much. There's just so much. Period. That Democrats have to deal with from a like messaging. Like people say like even like you can think about this from like a one-on-one perspective. Like people say, why do you not like Donald Trump? It's like, holy fuck, I don't know. The list is 100,000. I could talk about him for hours. I could talk straight for 30 minutes about everything wrong with Donald Trump. So, but in terms of messaging, you got to keep it simple. You got to keep it sweet, and you got to be able to deliver a message that people hear. And so, I don't know. I think it's a combination of all, but. Dude, it's so hard. Like, it's so hard because people are pessimistic about, Biden's economy and his economic, his economic achievements, I think will be seen in the future as incredible, period. And I think the bills that he's passed for our economic future in terms of climate change, infrastructure, just investing tons of money in America, et cetera, has been incredibly good. And we've seen the numbers and like, wages for low-income workers, outpacing inflation, etc., since COVID started. So, but people are pessimistic about the economy, understandably so. It's been hard since COVID. Inflation's high. So it's like you can talk about the Trump presidency, but I think that falls flat on its face. I think people say, I didn't pay as much in gas. I was making more money. The stock market was ripping, and again, that has nothing to do with Trump, and the vice versa has nothing to do with Biden. But again, this is, just how it is. So I think you maybe ignore that. You can try to sprinkle a little bit in about Biden's accomplishments, but again, even that's hard economically as people feel pessimistic about the economy. That also kind of falls flat on its face from a messaging standpoint, which I understand. I'm not saying these people aren't valid, but I really just think you got to keep it sweet. You got to focus on the four main issues, and I think just the broad things that people can like very much understand from like a easy standpoint. Donald Trump has 91 felonies. Maybe he'll be a convicted felon before the election. That's easy. But you start to get in the weeds about like he's been found liable for it. It's hard. It's hard.
Well, I think like the Democrats, when you're talking about that, like I think it's worth it to bring up the sexual abuse and the fraud. But I think like we can't overcomplicate it. Like I think has to be like 4 words: proven sexual abuser, proven to have committed fraud. Things like that, not like found liable for extensive fraud and
right. It's like
right. So it has to be it has to be stuff like that. And maybe you're right. Like maybe don't focus on as much on the Trump presidency because you're trying to talk to the average voter, not like us who like know like in depth about what happened during the Trump presidency. But I also wonder like how the Biden team is going to approach the indictments and the felon. Like if he's a felon, like Biden has specifically made an effort not to talk about the indictments because it's being handled by the Department of Justice. He wants to keep that independence, and that is the right thing to do. That is the wise thing to do.
That's always been That's always been the precedent in America until Donald Trump, literally.
Right. They want to maintain that independence, even though politically it would help Biden. But I wonder, are they going to start leaning into that? Are they going to start talking about it more? Maybe they'll start spending. Maybe PACs will start doing it on their behalf. So they're not talking about it.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, I think if he gets convicted, you got to talk about that he's a felon. I think like again, we saw these like phrases too that I think are perfect. Like when he got impeached for the second time, it's like twice impeached, disgraced former president. Like now like I say this on Twitter all the time because it's just the truth. You like a sexually or there's like a way this goes, but it's like a proven sexual abuser with 91 felonies who commits fraud is the front runner for the Republican Party. Like it's just I don't know. I think you just hammer that basic stuff but like you said, it's complicated and it's hard and we'll have to see. But even in that conversation, I think all of that we just talked about should be like, and this is hard, but I really think it should be the minority in like a high minority, like maybe 40%. But like it's clear, it's becoming clear to me after this, and I know we haven't talked about this in private, but it's just becoming clear. Like if you focus on the issues, we win. We like the issues Americans care about the most right now. Democrats overwhelmingly win. I say this all the time. It's like, dude, gun control, like huge issue. Democrats win. Abortion, huge issue. Democrats win. Climate change. How many Americans, period, are watching someone like Vivek Ramaswamy or Trump or whoever get up on a stage and say climate change is a hoax. Let's burn as many greenhouse gas, or let's burn as many greenhouse let's essentially burn as much coal as we physically can in a short amount of time because this shit isn't real, blah 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 blah. I mean, how that has to fall flat on the voters period, because all these positions are extreme. And so I just think you have to just focus on the issues. And even though it's so hard to not say look at their fucking front runner, you focus on the issues, keep it simple. Maybe it's just a win. I mean, it clearly was on Tuesday.
Look, maybe that's right. And like I think maybe we just cracked the code. Maybe the right strategy is that the Biden campaign focuses on the issues. They focus on, obviously talk about what Biden has done about the issues, but also focus on their position and what they plan to do and the vision for America, like what their actual vision is. And then let the PACs, let people like yourself and I, let the political commentators focus on the negatives of Trump and slamming him every day of our lives.
And I think that's super well said. And like, again, when it almost like plays into each other, right? So if Biden is getting up there and saying, and Democrats nationally are saying, these are the issues, this is what we're going to do about them, this is what we're focused on, ignore the noise, it's going to play into the fact that Donald Trump is getting up on a stage and never addressing the issues. As a normal voter who's split between Biden and Trump, or a voter who's a Democrat who says, I don't want to vote for Biden, etc., if you're paying a little bit of attention, you're going to see Biden and Democrats getting on a stage and saying, we want to sign, we want an amendment for abortion rights. We want, the future of America to be climate change. We're going to help save the climate. This is how we're going to do it. The infrastructure, this is how we're going to do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Gun control, this is how we're going to do it. You flip on the TV to Trump. When does that guy ever talk about the issues? He gets up on a stage every day. I saw him in, I think he was in New Hampshire or something, literally yesterday. He just says, we're going to defeat the Marxists, communists. He makes fun of like people's families and kids. And again, screw talking about how bad all that is, because that dude's like genuinely a bad guy. He made fun of Nancy Pelosi's husband again yesterday, talking about how he got hit in the head with a hammer and laughing about it. Absolutely disgusting. But again, that type of stuff is clearly not working. So I would position it and say, look, like, screw if he's a bad guy or not. I don't care what you think. How much of the actual issues that you're dealing with did he talk about on that stage? Because as far as I'm aware, regardless of what you think of Nancy Pelosi or Trump, him making fun, spending 10 minutes making fun of Nancy Pelosi has nothing to do with what you're dealing with. So again, you can create that contrast if the Biden administration focuses on the issues, Trump doesn't, and then people like you and I fucking do what we do every day, what I've been doing since I was fucking 15. In just private conversations with people, which is just, this guy is a bad guy and here's why, and here's what Biden has done. So,
dude, maybe and legitimately, maybe that's just it. Like, maybe that's it.
Maybe we just cracked the code.
Maybe we just cracked the code on the pod, bro.
Right.
I like what we should do, what the Biden campaign should do in 2024. Because again, we keep winning on the issues, and the media is everybody in the media is going to want to have a word about Donald Trump, the first president, if he's convicted. That is, everybody's going to have a word about the first president getting convicted of a felony.
Well, exactly, and it's also like, again, like I think even talking to people in private, a lot of them don't know Biden accomplishments.
Yep.
And a lot of them, even if they are conservative, like, so, I'm in Kennesaw, Georgia, which is a Cobb County. It's a not really red, but there's some suburb of Atlanta, like Marjorie Taylor Greene's above me. There's some deep red areas in the suburbs. It's kind of contested, but there's a lot of people in this area that come from northern Georgia, which is like, deep red, like we're talking like very country, like blah blah. It's just a different way of living. That's fine. But I talk to those people who like Trump, but they often tell me, I'm just tired of hearing about him. Like, it's just like blah, 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 Trump. Yeah, he's a bad guy, blah, blah, blah. Like, the average American voter right now almost seems to be, like, just tired of, like, turning on the news and all they hear is Trump. And so, again, I think that plays into Democrats being the ones who say, these are the issues. Like, I'm not going to try to convince you that Donald Trump's a bad guy. I'm going to try to convince you that I talk about the issues, and they don't. And let people like you and I, bro, we need to call up the White House PR team right now. Let me get on.
Call Biden right now, bro.
He said, I want a job. I just cracked your code, buddy.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like, let's that's what's always funny because, people are like, oh, you're connected with the Biden team. Like, no, please do. Like, we have some ideas.
Please, I have
we have some ideas.
Yeah. Please, exactly.
We want to talk to them about this stuff. No, seriously. Wow. I mean, look, I think you're 100% right. We'll just have to see how it plays out. I mean, again, less than a year away, ladies and gentlemen. Less than a year away, if you can even believe it. Like, and I know people don't want to believe this. I know people don't want to be there yet, but we are in the full swing of the 2024 cycle. The Iowa primary for the Republicans is not far away. It's in January, literally around the corner. And primaries after that are happening. We're going on to the fourth Republican debate. Who the hell watches that anymore? So we're here.
Did you watch the Republican debate this week?
I did. I watched a little bit of it, and I think, actually, good time to mention we're going to talk about the Republican debate on our Patreon episode.
We are. That's why I mentioned it. If you guys don't know, we do have a Patreon. The support goes a super, super, super long way. Obviously, we also do 99% of our content is free and no need to subscribe. But in terms of helping us out for the podcast or going through school, etc., it's a big help. And we love you a lot and we appreciate you a lot. We already had some people subscribe, and we are releasing our first Patreon episode today as you're listening to this. If you're listening to it on Monday, it will be released, later day Monday, and we're going to do a deep dive on the Republican debate on the Patreon. And then, we'll see where the Patreon goes. Maybe people want it to be less politics and more personal life, etc. We're going to do not an episode every week, but we're going to do, an episode and live streams, and we'll have a Discord, etc. So if you want to check it out, you can, but I don't even. The Republican debate was just, a Republican debate.
Yeah. Also, shout out the hoodies. If you guys want a hoodie, link in bio.
Yeah, we also have hoodies. I don't have my hoodie on. I have this Old Miss hoodie on, but
that's okay. I wore it for that reason. We have Chris and Harry Unplugged hoodies. If you don't want a Patreon or you want to support two different ways, go ahead.
I appreciate that, Harry. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're gonna. I'm really hoping to add some more stuff to that merch store that's less expensive. All of it will still be domestically made and support us, but maybe some stickers or something that's just because again the hoodies were a little more expensive just because they're domestically made and a tree is planted, etc. And as we're talking about hoodies, pretty sure everyone's gotten their hoodies. There's one person out there who has not received their hoodie, and that would be the only man or woman or whoever. I'm not sure how they identify, but this person ordered a hoodie in Canada. Okay, I was very much, after all the research, under the impression that I could ship directly to Canada via Canva. If you want to go look into it, that's the website. I was wrong, so I had to get the hoodie myself and then ship it. But just to let you know, if you're watching, I have emailed you at this point in time on Monday. Your hoodie is having some trouble through UPS because, and it's interesting to talk about, I think after Donald Trump ripped apart NAFTA?
NAFTA, yeah.
Yeah, after Donald Trump ripped apart NAFTA, it is very challenging to get a hoodie across customs in the US to Canada. Like, surprisingly, like, I have filled out like 6 forms, and then I got a call from UPS like Friday afternoon. I was like, yeah, we haven't shipped this yet because you don't have an invoice in the box. And then there's another form you need to fill out. So it's still sitting at UPS here. I am so sorry. Truly, I'm so sorry. I'm probably going to send you, a little bit of, a discount. We'll send you something nice. We appreciate your patience, and I'm very sorry about that. But I'll get it to you, I promise. And I appreciate you personally so much, but I won't say your name for privacy reasons.
Thank you.
But
thank
yeah,
you, that person,
I mean, with that being said, man, 46 minutes, dude. Our episodes have been shorter lately.
Well, we still have to talk about Mississippi.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's gonna be quick, but Mississippi is worth a conversation. You might be thinking, Mississippi, the state of Mississippi, Republican state. Why is that worth talking about? But look,
that is insane. Isn't
that crazy? So look, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everything in between. In addition to all the elections that were on Tuesday, there was also the Mississippi governor's race. This was contentious between Republican Tate Reeves, who's the incumbent governor, and Democrat Brandon Presley. He was a Democratic candidate. Funnily enough, a relative of Elvis Presley. Fun fact. As you can see, the Republican won. Tate Reeves, at the end of the day, won. He got 51.6% of the votes. But here's the interesting thing. Brandon Presley, the Democrat, got 47% of the vote. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's 4.6%. Like, that's a lot. Not in Mississippi. In Mississippi, Republicans destroy Democrats, as it's a deep red state. So for a Democrat to come in within under 5 points of the governor, the incumbent, is a big deal. And again, the Republican only won by 35,000 votes. Not a lot in the state of Mississippi. And to show you how impressive this is, like, look at these other Republican elections down here for lieutenant governor or secretary of state or attorney general. Like, Republicans won by well over 100,000 votes. So for a Democrat to perform this well in the deep red state of Mississippi is something. It's impressive. And it's something that I think Democrats should keep an eye on. The South, just generally, look at it. Just maybe look at it as we go in different elections. I mean, especially with like Texas. Texas, a lot happens in Texas. Lots happening in Georgia. Lots happening in North Carolina. Like, these are states to keep an eye on. Kentucky, as you saw, just elected a Democrat again. So it's just an interesting election. And the fact that, he only lost by 35,808 votes. So, some fun facts here.
Yeah, very well said. Again, I think it's really important to point out that, like, we're taught, like, Georgia now has moved toward really a purple state, and we'll really see this election if what type of state we are here in Georgia. But you talk about Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, like, a lot of these states are some deep red states, and to see a result like this in the governor's race of Mississippi is stunning, absolutely stunning. And I think it's going to be, a lot of these states will be key for not just 2024, but the projection of the Democratic Party moving toward 2028 and further about, what states, Democrats should be focused on. But yeah, I mean, big election in Mississippi. I've done some videos on Tate Reeves. You guys, if you're not familiar with Mississippi, Tate Reeves is really not a good guy. You should look up Tate Reeves Confederate Heritage Month. I've done a little bit of a dive about every April Tate Reeves that he's been in office, and before that too, but he's declared April Confederate Heritage Month, and he does that in partnership with an organization that the Southern Vets of the Confederacy. He does that with that organization, receives money from them, and they are like a seriously alt-right group who essentially pushes Tate Reeves to declare this Confederate Heritage Month. And there's some really disgusting things that go deeper with that group and Tate Reeves and the racism that is rampant in Mississippi. So I would look that up, especially if you're in Mississippi. Shout out to you, because Tate Reeves is not a good guy. But again, we're talking about 35,000 votes. And if you're watching this podcast and you're in a state like this or Georgia, it's not that many. you talk about getting young people specifically out to vote, anyone out to vote. There's a lot of ways to text bank, call bank, organize in your local community, in your national community. Maybe you want to stay at home and you don't want to go out. Cool. You can call people, you can email people for candidates, whatever. There's a lot of ways, and every single vote ends up mattering. And you talk 35,000 votes in the state of Mississippi is not a lot. So yeah, I would just, honestly, I think the resounding message from this podcast is just, this gives me, and I post this on my TikTok, and this is kind of like where I aim a lot of my social media, hope. Because a lot of people in this day and age with Trump, etc., you lack hope seeing some of these polls for Republicans. I frankly, just blatantly, fuck all that. It was clear as day to me on Tuesday that we're energized, we're ready, and that if we focus on the issues, we will unequivocally win 2024. So I would just have hope, and I appreciate you watching the podcast, and I appreciate it all. Oh, look at Harry with the Obama hope. That shirt is sick. Obama.
Look at that.
Harry has an Obama hope T-shirt on right now. That's pretty
Look
dope.
at that.
I was gonna get a big sign in the back because I know everyone says my wall looks like a hospital wall. I was gonna get a big sign, big Obama sign, or thing in the back. And
Yeah,
we also
you
have to-
should.
We have to get some neon signs for the podcast, man.
Yeah, we're gonna update the background soon. Hopefully, I mean we always say stuff like that, but soon.
Yeah,
hopefully.
we'll try. But regardless, any last words, Harry?
No, I just think that last thing I'd say is that look at these elections. Voting works. Talking to friends and family and convincing them to vote works. And don't keep the faith, as Joe Biden would say. We can do this. These election results, whether it be 2020, 2022, 2023, they show that we can do this. So let's make it happen. We got a year.
Yes, we can. That's what I
Yes,
heard. Yes,
we can.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be here every Monday, 1 p.m. on every single platform: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. We really, really appreciate you sticking with us. We're working hard. Means the world, every single one of you. And again, if you want to check the link for our Patreon episode, which will be out later today, if you are interested in supporting, it would truly mean the world. And we also have hoodies and the rest of our where we post content: TikTok, Twitter, Threads. We're pretty much on there all day if you want to check out some of our other content. And if you have any suggestions for anything, any episodes coming up, if you want to be in the podcast, you can email us at questions@cmhsunplugged.com. Again, that's questions@cmhsunplugged.com. And you can email us any questions. Maybe we will do some questions next week on the podcast, or if you want to be on the podcast, you're more than welcome to email about anything at all. Yeah, that's about it. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back Monday at 1 o'clock. Have a fantastic and safe week, and we'll see you later. Peace.